Welcome to NCIX Tech Tips. These introductions have gotten too long, so we're gonna keep it fast. Slim, sexy, water resistant, Sony Xperia Z. That is all. Man, this thing looks outstanding. The black levels are so deep that you can hardly tell the difference between the bezel and the screen, and I mean, it's just... Oh crap, are we supposed to actually make a video? I thought we covered everything already. Okay, well why don't we start with specs. The Xperia Tablet Z uses a Snapdragon S4 Pro processor. That's a quad-core processor running at 1.5 gigahertz. It's got 2 gigs of system memory, as well as an Adreno 320 GPU. So that, along with the PlayStation certification that it carries, means you're gonna have a great gaming experience on the tablet. And it uses an 8.1 megapixel rear camera, no flash though guys, as well as a 2.2 megapixel front camera that is capable of capturing HD video. This one right here is a 16 gig model, but you can of course expand the storage using micro SD. Physically, this thing is jaw-dropping. Everyone in the studio was blown away by some aspect of it. Slick was like, whoa, I can barely even feel it. It's so light. B-roll was like, oh wow, I really like the backing on it. And for me personally, I find that I like the thinness. The thinness really stands out to me and makes it more comfortable to hold. That's one of the reasons that I really like my old Galaxy Note 10.1, because compared to everything else at the time, it was very, very thin. So physically, it has a pretty standard looking tablet shape, not like Sony's previous attempts where they had one that was supposed to feel kind of like a book. No, this is your standard, square, super hyper symmetrical, omni-balanced design. It has rounded corners, which make it a little bit more comfortable to hold rather than digging into your palms. It is only 6.9 millimeters thick and phenomenally thin and under 500 grams, so 495 grams. It has a 1920 by 1200 resolution display, which I personally appreciate because having that little bit of extra vertical resolution gives you room to waste up at the top for things like, your apps, for example, or at the bottom for things like your home button and back button and whatever else that don't take away from 1080p content that's playing in the middle. It has a soft touch back, which you guys can feel is going to make it difficult to slip out of your fingers and drop, and it has micro SD as well as micro HDMI. It's available with a SIM slot. It has a 3.5 millimeter headphone microphone combo jack, 4 stereo speakers, micro USB, and an IR blaster up at the top. Now those 4 stereo speakers are in the bottom left and bottom right, on the sides and bottom, and the idea is to give it a more, a wider sound cone so that you feel more immersed in the content. It is important not to accidentally block them with your hands, just like many other tablets out there. I would like to draw special attention to the screen because while none of us were blown away particularly by the screen immediately, the reason for that is we were all getting our first impressions before we turned it on. It has a 221 pixel per inch density, it's a 10.1 inch screen, it's LED backlit, 1920 by 1200 as I mentioned before. It is an IPS panel, however, it should be noted that there's more to it than just the quality of the IPS panel and the backlight. Sony is using their Bravia Engine 2, which we've seen before in the Xperia Z smartphone, to increase contrast, color vibrancy, and sharpness in photos and videos. It's also worth noting that just because it's only 1920 by 1200 and Apple's got their Uber display and Google's got the Nexus 10 with 2560 by 1600 display. These are all very impressive things, but at the end of the day, 1920 by 1200 is still very sharp at this resolution, and running games at 1920 by 1200 is less demanding than running games at those higher resolutions, which will improve the smoothness of playback and can potentially improve battery life. It is really hard to differentiate based on hardware in a tablet. I mean, everyone has access to the same processors in general, save for maybe Apple or Samsung. Everyone has access to the same screen technologies, and it's not like RAM changes much from device to device. So what are you supposed to do? The answer is engineering. Sony has created this super light, super thin, super water resistant, and dust-proof tablet that really sets itself apart based on hardware, but you also get the benefits of the Sony ecosystem as well. So their Walkman app is included, as well as their Video Unlimited and Music Unlimited streaming services. You've of course got PlayStation certification, so you've got PS3 controller support as well as the ability to download and run games. And finally, you get their Universal Remote app. Thank you for checking out this episode of NCIX Tech Tips on the Sony Sony Xperia Tablet Z. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this from ncix.com.